Phil Mickelson has spent years demanding a fair road into golf's major championships for every elite player, regardless of which tour signs the checks. Now that road has finally appeared, and somehow it looks more like a keyhole than an open gate. The official World Golf Ranking has agreed to award points to LIV Golf in 2026. The US Open and the Open have also created direct LIV pathways. On paper, this should be the breakthrough Mickelson wanted. Instead, the new system has produced another explosive argument. Only the top 10 finishers, including ties, receive world ranking points at LIV events. Everyone below that line receives nothing. Meanwhile, the major-specific LIV exemptions remain extremely limited, meaning recognizable champions can still disappear from major fields even while competing against Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Joaquin Niemann, and other proven winners. That is why Mickelson has become the natural face of a wider player challenge. No credible report confirms that he has secretly assembled PGA Tour stars, called an emergency meeting, or ordered a locker room revolt. But his long-standing argument is now gaining urgency across professional golf. Qualification must measure performance fairly, not quietly punish players according to their league. Is this a genuine bridge back into the majors or a narrow political compromise designed to look generous while keeping most LIV golfers outside? Subscribe now, because Mickelson's fight over major access could unite players from opposite sides of golf's civil war and force the ranking establishment to defend every number. The controversy begins with the OWGR decision announced in February 2026. After reviewing LIV Golf's application, the ranking board agreed to recognize its individual stroke play events. That was a major shift. LIV had operated for years without ranking points, causing many of its players to slide down the global list even when they were playing strong golf. The ranking collapse carried serious consequences. The majors use the OWGR as one of their central qualification tools. A player who falls outside the required positions can lose access unless he owns a past champion exemption, performs through another approved pathway, receives a special invitation, or survives qualifying. That created golf's strangest math problem. A former world number one could compete against major champions, finish well, collect millions, and still move backward in the ranking used to decide whether he belonged among the best players on earth. The 2026 decision attempted a compromise. LIV events would receive ranking recognition, but they would be classified as small field tournaments. Points would go only to the top 10 finishers and ties. Golfers finishing 11th or lower would receive 0, and the unused points would not be redistributed upward. That cutoff immediately became the center of the dispute. In most ranked tournaments, players throughout a meaningful portion of the field can earn points according to performance and field strength. Under LIV's arrangement, 10th place can receive a reward, while 11th receives the ranking equivalent of an empty envelope. One shot can separate those positions. One lip out, one bad bounce, or one gust of wind can turn a respectable week against elite opposition into absolutely nothing. Supporters of the restriction say LIV's structure requires special treatment. Its fields remain smaller than normal PGA Tour fields. Access is limited. Team contracts can protect players. The league's competitive model does not perfectly match the open pathways used elsewhere. Awarding full points throughout the field, they argue, could overvalue golfers who entered through contracts rather than weekly qualification. That concern is legitimate. But the top 10 only solution creates its own distortion. A player finishing 12th in a field containing Rahm, DeChambeau, Niemann, Cameron Smith, Tyrrell Hatton, and Brooks Koepka may have beaten several major champions. If that performance earns nothing, the ranking is no longer measuring only whom he beat and how he played. It is also enforcing a judgment about the league itself. Mickelson has warned about this problem for years. Back in 2023, he argued that allowing strong LIV performers into the majors served everybody's interest. His case was simple. The majors are supposed to identify the best golfer during the most demanding weeks. Their credibility weakens when qualification politics remove players capable of winning. Phil's own career gives the issue extra weight. He owns 6 major championships, including his stunning PGA Championship victory in 2021 at age 50. That triumph delivered a 5-year U.S. Open exemption, but it expired before the 2026 championship. For the first time since that victory, his route to the one major he never won depended on qualifying, a LIV standings exemption, the world ranking, or USGA generosity. Mickelson ultimately missed all 4 majors in 2026 while dealing with a private family health matter. His absence should not be falsely blamed on qualification rules. He remained exempt for several championships and voluntarily stepped away. Still, his changing eligibility shows how quickly doors can close. Past champions eventually age out of some exemptions. Ranking positions disappear. Special invitations are never guaranteed. Even legendary names can reach a point where the system asks them to prove current form. That principle is fair. The question is whether every player receives a fair method of proving it. The USGA took an important step before the OWGR decision. It became the first major organizer to create a direct exemption category based on LIV Golf's individual standings. For the 2026 U.S. Open, one non-exempt player inside the top 3 of the final 2025 LIV standings could qualify, and another non-exempt player inside the top 3 of the 2026 standings at the designated date could also enter. The USGA also offered local qualifying exemptions to leading LIV players, preserving another route toward the championship. The R&A created its own LIV pathway for the Open. The leading non-exempt player in the LIV standings after a specified event earned a place at Royal Birkdale. Joaquin Niemann claimed that route in 2026. Those changes matter. They prove the major organizations recognize that ignoring an entire league can weaken their fields. They also reveal how cautious the organizations remain. 1 or 2 direct positions hardly represent an open floodgate. For the strongest LIV stars, the pathways may work, win events, lead the standings, finish inside the OWGR top 10 cutoff repeatedly, and the majors remain reachable. For the middle of the league, the situation becomes brutal. A golfer could produce consistent top 15 finishes, beat half the field every week, and collect almost no ranking value. He could finish 4th in the seasonal standings, but miss a direct exemption because only a player inside the top 3 qualifies. Consistency that would steadily build status on another tour can become invisible. That is where Mickelson's argument can attract PGA Tour players. This is not because tour members suddenly want LIV to receive every advantage. Many stayed loyal, rejected huge contracts, and watched departing stars attack the organization that built their careers. Some will feel no sympathy for players who accepted guaranteed money while knowing ranking access was uncertain. But qualification systems eventually affect everyone. The PGA Tour's own 2028 redesign will create a premium championship series, a secondary challenger series, promotion, relegation, smaller elite fields, and new access questions. Players now defending rigid LIV restrictions may soon find themselves debating how performances in the Challenger Series compare with those in the top division. Golf has a funny way of making principles feel urgent the moment they reach your own scorecard. That is the real meaning behind Mickelson mobilizing stars. There is no verified evidence of Phil leading PGA Tour players into a formal alliance. The mobilization is an argument spreading across both tours. Published transparent standards measure actual strength, reward performance consistently, and give every credible professional route into the majors. Players do not need to like Mickelson to support that principle. They only need to understand that secret formulas and selective pathways can decide careers. The OWGR board faces an impossible balancing act. If it awards LIV full points, critics will accuse it of rewarding a league with restricted entry and protected contracts. If it refuses meaningful points, supporters will accuse it of preserving PGA Tour power. Every adjustment becomes evidence of conspiracy to whichever side dislikes the result. The best defense is transparency. OWGR should explain in plain language why the 10th place cutoff accurately represents LIV's competitive structure. Why 10? Why not 15, 20, or a percentage of the field? What data shows that a player finishing 11th deserves no ranking credit? How will the model respond if LIV expands access, changes contracts, strengthens relegation, or increases field size? The board has identified areas where LIV does not meet eligibility standards, including pathways into the league and consequences for poor performance. Those concerns deserve specific measurements rather than mysterious punishment. LIV also carries responsibility. It cannot demand normal ranking treatment while preserving every unusual feature that complicates comparison. If the league wants broader points, it should improve qualification routes, create genuine movement into and out of its roster, reduce contractual protection, and show that competitive results determine membership. You cannot build a gated mansion and then complain that the Postal Service cannot reach every room. Mickelson and other LIV leaders should therefore pressure both institutions. Challenge OWGR to justify the cutoff, but challenge LIV to meet the standards necessary for fairer treatment. That balanced approach would be more powerful than another social media attack. The majors occupy a separate position. Augusta National, the PGA of America, the USGA, and the R&A control their own fields. They are not required to use identical criteria, and that independence protects each championship's character. Yet wildly different pathways create confusion. Different traditions are valuable. Different standards without clear logic can look political. The simplest improvement would be a shared performance framework. Each major could preserve unique exemptions while recognizing champions and leading performers from every serious tour. Direct LIV places should depend on field strength and season results, not automatic entitlement. PGA Tour and DP World Tour players should face equally published standards. It would guarantee them a road. Mickelson's critics will argue that he helped create the problem. He joined LIV knowing the league lacked ranking approval. He accepted enormous guaranteed compensation. He publicly challenged golf's establishment and then complained when establishment pathways narrowed. That criticism cannot simply be dismissed. Choice carries consequences. But major fields are not designed to punish business decisions. They are designed to identify champions. If a player remains good enough to defeat the strongest golfers, the qualification structure should be capable of recognizing that fact. Bryson DeChambeau proved the point by winning the 2024 U.S. Open. Jon Rahm already owned 2 majors before joining LIV. Brooks Koepka captured the 2023 PGA Championship while playing on the league. Niemann's sustained form demanded attention even when his ranking did not fully reflect it. These are not exhibition golfers wandering into a corporate scramble. They can win the biggest events. That does not mean every LIV player belongs in every major. The majors should resist turning star power into permanent immunity. A famous name playing poorly should lose access eventually, whether he competes on LIV, the PGA Tour, or in his backyard against 3 friends and a suspiciously generous handicap. Merit must remain the standard. The fight is over how merit gets measured. The top 10 rule offers LIV golfers something they previously lacked, so calling it total exclusion would be dishonest. It is progress. It may also be an incomplete and awkward compromise. Both truths can exist. Players should test the system over a full season. Compare how many points LIV golfers receive with players producing similar results against comparable opposition elsewhere. Study whether the cutoff creates obvious ranking gaps. Publish that evidence and argue from data instead of outrage. If the results show fair movement, critics should admit it. If they show strong players remaining artificially buried, OWGR should adjust the model. That is how a credible ranking evolves. Mickelson's role should be to keep the pressure focused. He has influence, experience, and a talent for saying the uncomfortable thing loudly enough that golf cannot ignore it. He also carries enough controversy that critics may reject a sensible argument simply because Phil delivered it, so he needs allies, not a secret army, not a dramatic press conference with players marching behind him. He needs respected competitors from the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, LIV Golf, and rising circuits to demand the same basic safeguards, published formulas, comparable treatment, meaningful access, and regular review. That coalition would threaten nobody who genuinely believes the current system is fair. If the rules survive open examination, they gain legitimacy. If they collapse under basic questions, they require repair. The majors should welcome that scrutiny. Their power comes from credibility. Fans must believe the field contains the players most capable of winning, balanced with champions, amateurs, qualifiers, and global pathways that make each event unique. Leaving one deserving golfer outside may be unavoidable. Leaving an entire category undervalued because negotiations became difficult is something else. Golf spent years turning league loyalty into a moral identity. PGA Tour supporters treated every LIV success like an invasion. LIV defenders treated every restriction like proof of corruption. The qualification debate offers a chance to move beyond those uniforms. Ask one question: does the system identify current major caliber players accurately? If the answer is yes, keep it. If the answer is no, fix it. No anthem, team logo, commissioner, or signing bonus should alter that test. Mickelson has not been confirmed as the commander of a PGA Star revolt, but the conditions for a broader challenge now exist. LIV receives points, yet only through a severe cutoff. Major organizers offer pathways, yet only a handful of places. The PGA Tour prepares its own two-level future, giving its members a personal reason to care about how secondary circuits are valued. The pressure will grow with every missing name. One controversial omission can be explained. Several can become a pattern. If a player wins repeatedly, defeats major champions, and still cannot enter the championships without a special favor, golf will have a credibility problem no formula can hide. The solution is not guaranteed access for celebrities. It is transparent access for competitors. Phil's campaign has always been strongest when reduced to that point. Let performance open the door. Make every league prove its competitive quality. Make every ranking body explain its calculations. Then let the majors decide championships on the course rather than through arguments in boardrooms. Golf fans, what is your verdict? Does the top 10 OWGR cutoff fairly recognize LIV performance, or does it create another artificial barrier between elite players and the majors? Drop your opinion in the comments. If you believe every major qualification rule should be completely transparent, hit the like button and share this video with another golf fan. Subscribe for every major update, controversy, and clubhouse clash, because this fight is nowhere near the 18th green. Mickelson's next challenge could create a fair road into the majors or expose a system still choosing politics over performance.